We're recording. That's all that matters.
All right. All right, cool. All right. Well, anyway, let's get started. What we are talking about today is security culture. I mean, I'm sure. I mean, I don't know if y'all dealt with any occupiers or any like some of the other new uprising, activist groups, but security culture has been a big debate, a very, very debated topic among lots of people. Some people believe that security culture is only for guerrilla warfare, or like crime burglary rings, you know what I mean? Terrorist cells, whatnot, and they're like, we're a people's movement. People's movement don't need to keep secrets. Everything must be out in the open. I've been in debates with all the way from Occupy Wall Street to what was going to Occupy Chicago about that. The reason why we don't want our government to be able to do things secretly or keep secretly is to take the fight out of what they can do. But if we can't do anything secure, then it takes the fight out of what we can do. We can't plan an action on a CEO if he knows we're coming, or she does. I really can't plan it. Oh, we're gonna try to. Oh, we're gonna blitz this. We're gonna blitz interview this person, or we're gonna blitz and do this person. They come out of there, but we're gonna put it on the blog, and then we're gonna put it on our website that we're coming. But we're gonna surprise them. We're gonna surprise them so they don't know that we're coming. But we have to put this everywhere and talk about it in the Google groups and make this open to the public, but we still have to surprise everybody. Never work. You'll never get in the building and do any banners. Pretty much you're gonna be stuck to just doing protest and rallies in the street. That's all you're gonna be doing. So basic security culture is it's not just for crooked people. You have like a shelter for battered women. That's one of the examples I use. You need to talk to somebody about that. So shelter for battered women has extreme security culture because you cannot compromise the location of the people that are inside. And there's many things that people aren't trained on. They can accidentally say something. It happens all the time. My mother and I, we worked in domestic violence for like years, Every guy always ended up showing up once a month. Some kind of way guy showed up and got over there, Someone made the wrong phone call. Someone did something to where that guy was able to figure out where they were at. Or sometimes if the guy's really clever and like hired a PI or something, they are usually, I'll talk different levels of PIs. The low level ones are always guys. But once you get to like level 2s and 3s, that's when some women might be PIs. Those are the ones that get paid more. But they'll hang out and try to mingle with people coming out of the shelter to see if they can pry information out of them. And then we'll be going over some of the techniques that people use to pry information out of people. And I got friends that, I used to do, how I learned a lot of this was I did genealogy work. And with genealogy, we were doing family pedigrees on people, but we were doing it for the purpose of probate court to prove who the heir of was the certain monies that the county was holding. So we have to do the whole thing. And, then we had a PI work, but he would find the people so that we can reallocate them with their money. And in doing this, that's how we ended up learning a lot about the information broker industry. And so. Moving along. Okay, what is security culture? Protocols and measures and things that people put in place to not compromise security. Because law enforcement corporations use the legal system to slow down and cripple activists all the time. Just for being activists, they're going to do things that try to entrap you. Try to keep you wrapped up in the legal system, so that you're doing jail support all the time and you're not doing anything to organize against the 1% of the things that they're doing. You're jail support. You end up being a jail support activist. You'll be a career person standing up for those that are in jail. They will keep you wrapped up in that all the time. Law enforcement, political operatives, they infiltrate activist groups all the time. They're going to send in informants, try to find out what's going on, and they'll try to come in and try to compromise some of your actions. I've had actions where we've had informants mess up 2 of them in the same day, but couldn't mess up the other 4 that we had planned. We had to set up that way. We knew there was a couple of informants, so we had to make separate affinity groups so that they would be over, and one of the other ones was okay. They can't stop all of this. We got to kind of separate this up. But knowing that they do this is a certain way you can behave and operate. That's good. There's a certain way you can behave and operate. So they will not, so that they can be less effective, and we're going to go into that. Don't be over paranoid, all right, about informants in your group. I've been around too many people, they just lose their damn mind, okay? They're both pulling all the batteries out their phones, and, you know, they're putting aluminum foil on the roof, you know, and they're shading the windows, they think black helicopters are out there, and, you know, someone barely says something and they freak out, and, you know.
Like tweakers or what?
Yeah, oh, man. Just a lot, well, and you know, it's people that have been around a long while and act like that, too. You know, it's not all new folks, man. You know, I know a guy, the guy that edits my YouTube videos, you know, he's one of those. You know, no matter what happens outside, he thinks someone's fine or something. You know, he wants to, everyone to go to Solaris for their operating system. That's been a debate for like 6 months. You know, because he's worried that people are trying to pry into our network. You know, I mean, Linux is fine. You know, we use Solaris. You know, but no one uses Solaris. I said, that's exactly. You know, no one uses it, then we can't do anything either. You know, but yeah, so right, because being overly paranoid will bog you down, and you really won't be able to get much done. You know, and everyone's looking at everybody, accusing everybody of everything. You know, I was at not the name of the camp. I was at a camp, and I was just trying to do that right there. Contact list. It's a volunteer contact list, meaning you put your information up there if you want all of us to have it. If you don't, then you just don't put it on the list. And people are like, well, a federal investigator may do something like that. I'm like, really? I mean, they could just be on the regular mailing list and probably end up getting the same information. So don't mark yourself down with too much stuff. Now we'll look at, this is pretty much a general guideline, so we don't have people paranoid and scared all the damn time. You know what I mean? You know, listen, high interest factors, they have low interest. Okay, you know, property destruction, you know, syphilis. If you've got multiple stuff over here, they're not listening. They're going to plan on it eventually. You know, they might not dedicate a lot of resources to you right away. You know, I mean, sometimes depending on what you're doing, they'll have someone to just eavesdrop every now and then. They're not going to just be, they're not listening to everyone's cell phone at the same time. Someone in a black car outside of your house all the time, listening in all the time. People are following you around. No, I mean, you have to be pretty serious for them to do that, you know.
They have limited resources.
Yes.
It's a good thing for us.
Right.
We don't watch everything all the time because it's very expensive. We can watch some things.
Unless you're really a high risk.
Right.
Then they'll use everything they have on you. You know. So I see people like, you know, all you're doing is legal protests, you know, rallies, you know, lobby research, you know, they're lobbying your congressman. You know what I mean? You know, what's middle class? You know, everybody got like $70,000-$80,000 a year in your organization. You got the lobbying and research. You know, they're probably not paying you any attention at all. You shouldn't have anything to worry about because you're probably dealing with Democrats and Republicans as probably far as you go. You know, no one sees that as a threat. You know, and but you get over here, you know, you're doing civil disobedience. You know, especially anti-capitalist, revolutionary stuff. Yeah, they're probably going to start doing something. You know, you're always doing stuff all the time, very, very politically active. You know, minimal public support. You know, certain groups, you know, don't have a broad media support presence. You know, but they're always doing something. You know, those are people that probably this is the list that pretty are going to be looking at. You know, on the other side, you know, you got white folks, legal protests. Lobbying, folks make $70,000 a year. You are safe. They are most likely not going to pay you any attention at all. But if you got pole-looking white folks, look at that over there, you know, pole raggedy-looking white folk, you know, and you guys have, and the person that your target that you're pretty much hitting has lots of power. You know, lots of power meaning, you know, it's a big corporation or it's the actual government itself. You know, the target is weak. You know, there's people I know, they like protest strip club or protest the porn store. They say it's like too close to your home, you know what I mean? You know, people, no matter how radical you're probably trying to get rid of the porn store, they know that the power pretty much stops at the porn store and no one's really caring about what you're doing. That's just the porn. They know it's really not going anywhere. You're just spitting spitballs in a battleship, you know, and good luck getting rid of it. You know, too many people secretly like it. So as an example, the target's weak, probably don't have a lot of money. Porn store maybe has maybe $100,000 a year or something like that. You know, so if this is the category that so talk to people, say, you look at this and say, what are you doing? You know, don't be paranoid. Don't force me to be overly paranoid, you know, because of that. So that's the list that we generally look at. Let's get over here. Try to get to the next section. All right, now. Someone is suspected of being informant. This comes up all the time. Somebody thinks everybody's an informant, or they think that one person is an informant for some bizarre reasons. You know, I try to talk to you about this all the time. You know, so they say, what should you do? You know, there's a number of things there's ways to handle that so you don't cause too much of a problem. One of the ways to handle that is, you know, if you think someone's an informant, you know, it's okay for you to try to not organize your action around that particular person. Don't go running around blasting all the email and Google listservs with anonymous accounts and stuff, trying to say, hey, we think this guy's possible informant or something like that. That's how you get disciplined.
Why?
Because you don't know. Because you could be wrong.
Okay.
One of the NATO 5 actually was an accused informant, and people feel stupid right now because it's like the people that were the informants that they weren't looking at, it was obvious they were informants because after everybody got arrested, they disappeared, and everybody else is still in jail. You know, so that one guy is like, well, you're trying to get your life back now. The rumors aren't there. Unfortunately, this had to happen too, because they specifically target. A lot of times they target people who they know don't have a lot of support. They think you're an activist that got millions of people that can be outside of courthouses and making a big hoopla. They're probably going to try to dug you, you know. But if you're somebody who, okay, you might be marginalized, like this one guy, one of the people in the NATO 5, you know, was kind of getting marginalized from the anarchist community, you know. So it was, you know, they entrapped him, you know, they pretty much railroaded him, you know. But what are you going to say?
I would kind of guess if you really had a suspicion somebody is of that ilk, the last thing you want to do is get on an email.
Yeah.
Because you just warned them.
Right.
So you just keep it quiet.
Keep it quiet. You know, you kind of, one advice is you might try to keep it, I say, people need to judge this on themselves. I like to try to keep them around.
Yep.
Because if I push them away, we got the situation going on in Chicago right now that somebody that we were suspecting was one, and I was pretty glad that most of our group did the right thing. We met, some of us secretly met and talked about it, like, what about this? But I told everybody under no circumstances, no one's compiling a list of what they think this guy is to blast this person, because I know some people that's naive a-holes and got egos and whatnot and are not informed. So, you know, snitch jacket is terrible, ruin your life, might as well call somebody a child molester, you know. And I have to know for sure before we put that on. Even though some people, I'm like, oh, they gotta be, you know, but you just never know. Don't do
The other
it.
thing too is you keep your friends close and your enemies close.
We'll get to that. Yeah, and what about keeping them close? Let me tell you why you keep them close, because now this person is pushed away, and we heard he's with some other groups in the suburbs. We don't know who that is. So we may have unleashed an actual informant among some people that we can't do anything about. So we're probably going to end up hearing later about some people got caught with this, that, and the other. And it'll be, you know, probably like, wow, we should have kept an eye on that person around something.
You also can use them to your advantage. If you really think you got a worm, start setting up activities that don't exist and tell that person, I already go here.
Well, actually, you know what we do? We used to have affinity groups, and we make sure the one that was like we thought was going to be fake, hey, something real sensitive going to happen in this one. You know, you make sure they in that one.
Right.
And then when they go do something, then everyone changes their mind about what it is they wanted to do. And you want to see just how pissed off that person is. You know, they're like losing their mind, and everyone else looking like, okay, you know. But still, I wouldn't tell people they're a snitch. You just know how to handle it. Even the one of the NATO 5 people I was really, really close friends with. But I wasn't 100%. I mean, even it started affecting me what people were saying. But we kept them close, and I didn't let people bother him. He was in our space. We had like street medics training, so I probably kicked him out one day. And I went there and said, you can't kick anybody out if you don't know. This is medic training. Right. I mean, it's medic training. You know, you're not training. There's nothing. I mean, you mean to tell me? The FBI can be in here for that. You know, teaching people how to help sick people. I mean, what's a big deal? People are so paranoid. We don't want this guy in here. You know. To minimize the damage informants can cause by applied secure communications and horizontal organizing. Now, secure communications and horizontal organizing. Now, I'm going to explain to you in a minute, you know, what that means. We had horizontal organizing, there was an informant named Brandon Darby. I don't know if anyone knows about that guy. You know, Brandon Darby, one of his things, he was a tyrant. And he needed to get at the top. And he did it. He got to the top of organizations, and he was an FBI informant, you know. And y'all know Lisa Fithian? Well, Lisa Fithian was after this guy for being a chauvinistic tyrant. It had nothing to do with informants, you know. Some people think that she was on him for that, but that's not what it was. That came later. It's like, we're after this guy. I was like, oh, shoot, look what we got. We got a nugget. You know, they found out that he was, but they didn't blow the cover until once he found out, they knew that he came clean about it. But you had an informant because of hierarchy. Okay, people stuck to those structures. These people had an informant running their whole grassroots organizations. You know, right? But now I'm gonna tell you about horizontal organizing, which minimizes that. Horizontal organizing, which what I learned we do at RAND. You know, you rotate your facilitator at all your meetings. Okay, not the same person. This also helps strengthen people to take the leadership in those roles, you know, so you don't have one person all the time, you know. Rotate your facilitator, stack keeper, you know. Note taker's hard. Nobody seems to want to do that. So you can't, it's hard to rotate that position. I don't know how much damage you can cause from there, you know, but you try to, so as long as you rotate things around, you know, that means if they are in a position of leadership at any given point, it's for a small amount of time. They're not running your organization. It's got Brandon Darby was doing it wherever he went. He just was running over everybody. And he was compromising things like putting signs up in people's yards saying, if you have a problem with the police, come to me. You know, and then people would come to him for that, and then he was like stacking all men in the organization above him, no women. That's why these people, they were after him big time over that, you know. Then they find out he's an informant, they were like, oh shit, we about to really get rid of him now. So then he wanted to control the message, and he went on the internet and told his story about why he became an informant, claiming that he did it because he felt that people in the movement were going to do bad things, and he wanted to prevent them from hurting the movement. Yeah, right. To tell the fans, like, that's what these people doing.
Sounds like a government.
Yeah. I wish I could have been around and said, why'd you bring the explosive equipment to the people if you're just trying to save, you know? Right.
What organization?
You know what? There was a lot of guys who was doing Hurricane. I was doing Hurricane Katrina time. He was doing a lot of stuff down there. And then it was damaged because in Texas too. He was working with grassroots organizations down there as well. Now, as far as like the, I would say, and how to handle, how to do things to make sure that people, back to that, to make sure people like that don't get created into, you know, informants. Is something of disgruntled activists. I see people do it all the time. They get really upset and they're frustrated with the movement. Then people just really put the pressure on them anyway and keep point. Then they want to leave. They're trying, they look for this stuff because they know they can target that person easily. You know, they know we can get this person's pissed off at the group. And especially they think that you all are doing something that's going to hurt the progressive movement of society. They can say that. That's the person they go to. So these people that are getting pinpointed and getting pushed out, ostracized, unless they're just really just insane, you know, you try to find ways to work with them and kind of nurture them so that they don't end up becoming that vulnerable target. You know, the other one is, you know, like people in jail are vulnerable. You know, that's why we have jail support. You know, if someone goes to jail, we make a big party outside of the jail. But we want them to know that we got their back and we're behind them all the time. And they don't have to think, but people leave them in there, you don't say nothing to them, you know, and they're just in there by themselves. Eventually they start thinking, well, fuck those people. They didn't care about me. They didn't do anything about me. And plus they're more vulnerable to want to flip and become a possible informant too, because now they're in jail. And they're like, I want to get the hell out of here. Yeah, we got folks in Chicago, they're in jail. I don't think they want to get out of jail. It's such, we raise so much hell at all their court hearings, and no matter what happens, we got so many people out there. We're stacking the courtroom, we're stacking up like this, and they're coming up. We got signs, we're putting on the glass, and judges calling people into the chambers. You can't bring signs in here and do that. And they just, when they come to court, you just see them, they're like, yeah! they're loving it, you know? They're coming out like, woo! You know, like this. You can't even visit some of them. We have to try to organize the visits. because people were showing up and nobody was getting to visit them because everybody was taking up the whole day for them. You know, so I don't think there's any shot of them, any of them ever becoming quiet. They probably don't even, I don't think they want to get out. They loving it, you know. And that's how you treat them. You know, you know, we got your back. You know, you don't have to, you know, no matter how much you're actually, you know, tempted. You know.
So, are there people who are jailed around the country for long periods of time? Because in Boston, it's like in and out.
Ooh. And if they get you for like the bogus trumped up terrorist charges, yeah, you're in there for a while. We got like some of the people from the.
You didn't know about that.
Oh yeah, we got some people that. Yeah, we got some people in Chicago that call them, you know, NATO 5. It's a big media spectacle. They are, you know. They were, of course, self-identified anarchists. That's a big target. You know, they try to have to justify the money that they spend. You know, so they try to find people who identify as that. You know, to try to target, and they basically they claimed that the people were making Molotov cocktails with, they had alcohol making equipment to make alcohol. It was like $1,000 worth of equipment, you know. And I was like, who spends $1,000 to make Molotov cocktails?
Yeah, right.
You know what I'm saying? You just get a can and pour the shit in the bottom and put a wick on top. Well, most of us don't have any money anyway. You think we're gonna pull together to get that, to do that? You know?
I would think, reflecting on your comment, and this is not fair at all, but demographically, you are a lot less likely to spend time in jail than maybe a young guy in Chicago.
Oh yeah, I'm the
color. You know, I hate to say it, but that's probably.
All right, well, let me toss something out. I know someone who's about my age, and we look very similar. She ended up 6 months in a federal prison after trespassing at School of the Americas.
Wow. So the demographics shouldn't necessarily.
Chris?
What was she
The
doing?
Iowa hockey. I should be putting that
Oh
on.
yeah, was she really radical?
She's very peaceful. She was.
They got her in there for like 6 months.
Sacrifice.
No, I'm
Oh.
sure they were longer, but no.
No, okay. There's a
People spend time in jail.
oh, they do, yeah. You know, but these people, like, what we got with our people, they haven't got their arraignment yet. They've been in there like 3 months, and then they're saying this might go for 2 years. We're like, what? You know, we thought it was a slam dunk. You know, one indication they're probably going to do these raids when they start. You hear in the news, they start announcing about, you know, we spent all this money, you know, for our new budget, you know, with the police, you know, because, you know, so now they got to justify this to keep getting money, right? We got to justify all this money we spent on security to keep you all safe, you know. And anybody ever figure out how come they have 100% flawless arrest rate of anarchists to try to blow up something? You would think if that means anarchists trying to blow up something, somebody eventually would blow something up, you know. How come they catch everybody?
They didn't catch that guy that blew the federal building, and they didn't catch the one that flew the plane in
Those are anarchists.
New York City.
Yeah, those are anarchists.
Yeah.
Oh,
Totally different.
Okay.
Right. See, those are people, they're within the pool of people that every now and then really are trying to do something, so people, they slip through the cracks. But I'm like, all the anarchists in the United States, how come if they always are trying to let you know that they're entrapping people? Right. You can't have a 100% flawless victory rate. You know, of all the people who happen to want to blow up something, you catch all of them, we'd have no crime in the country if that was the case. So that's the indicator of it. Back to this growing up people, we had, and how you know, recruit people into your circle. There was someone that we had in Chicago that was upset that, they were getting upset with how things were going, and they were still invited to do the actual action, which is a no-no. But the way Occupy is, everybody in, everybody open. We want everybody to be in our stuff. Even folks that don't agree with us. So they're gonna do a mic check on what was it? What's the day? What they call that day before after Thanksgiving? Is that Black Friday?
Black Friday.
Black Friday. So they all were gonna do an anti-capitalist thing and do a mic check on Black Friday. And the same person that was disagreeing with them online was supposed to be part of the action. I think you know what happened, right? They secretly released the press release of the action to the media right away, you know, so they never ruined the action. But that's what happens. You have people that you ideologically don't agree with that's in part of, you know, your circles. You know, outside of the horizontal organizing, and there's a certain way that a lot of people need to talk and speak, you know, and then I'm gonna talk about this stuff in a little detail so people won't get too paranoid, but there's certain ways people talk around each other and talk about things so they don't compromise the security of the actions and things that they're actually planning. I mean, let's listen to right. You know, PowerPoints are much easier.
Yeah, thank you for doing all this writing.
Oh yeah, I mean, I was like,
way better than PowerPoint.
yeah, we didn't have it. Yeah, but this is good for sometimes I do stuff in the
Shit.
yeah, I do stuff in the street a lot. You know, like I have portable easels and just set them up and say, bam, okay, we about to do a workshop right now.
Sorry, I gotta get this.
Go ahead. Okay, this is like kind of like a basic understanding and list, you know, and all of it's not engraved in stone, but you know, this is something you kind of just want to memorize in general, so you don't piss off certain people that are planning some stuff. This is not talking about public actions. Well, actually, I'll tell you about this. The public action, like folks hanging banner off, you know, Mount Rushmore. I mean, that was a big public spectacle. Everybody knows who it was doing it. They all work for like 350.org and shit like that. So yeah, if you talk about that, you know, that's fine, you know. But things that some people do things like, they do things and kind of remain anonymous a little bit in how they're actually doing it. You know, some people blitz certain CEO meetings and kind of get out and want to keep being able to do that. You know, so they don't want people to kind of know their names or whatever. But number one rule, don't discuss your involvement or someone else's involvement with, you know, an underground group. Okay? You know,
That's absolutely.
right. Don't talk about this out in the open or out in the public, you know, if it's an underground group. Number two, don't discuss someone else's desire to get with such a group. Don't be like, hey, oh Sue, you know, she thinks about wanting to get with the radical car bombing group, you know, or no, you don't do that, you know. I mean, you kind of keep that to yourself, you know. Now, let me tell you another thing, not just proper security culture, but you don't want to bring unnecessary attention to yourself, because if you know people like this, now they're looking, they may start looking at you and they weren't even thinking about you. You know, they love looking for someone to try. Remember, they got a 100% flawless arrestable rate of people that seem to want to do something. All right. Do not ask others if they're members of underground group. They don't go, hey, you know, are you a member of this? You know, you a member of that? You know, look at somebody. You know, yeah, you don't do that. For one thing, especially they got problems. They're gonna freak out, probably not want to talk to you, even though you may be naive. You know. Do not discuss your participation or someone else's participation in any action that was illegal, you know, except for the big time public stuff, you know. But if you did, you know, if you all went and did something that was some big lockbox action somewhere, even though people may have known about it, you know, but if you start talking about how you knew all the people that were involved in that, and now it seems like you're privy to information, okay, that some federal authority person might want to know. Okay, they're trying to find out when this stuff is actually happening, when it's going on. So you're talking about this stuff, and they're like, oh, wait a minute, she knows this. She knows when this stuff is happening. So now we know whose house to bug. You know, your house probably didn't get bugged anyway. But you want to try to prevent this as long as possible. You know?
It's like on Bashan, generally speaking, when some idiot does something stupid, like stealing from somebody's house, sooner or later they just can't help but brag.
Yeah.
This is such a small island. It could be 3 or 4 years down.
How many stories have you heard of somebody did something 20 years ago?
Yep.
And was talking about it in a bar?
That's right.
Exactly. Don't run your mouth off is what you're saying.
Gone. I mean, even though most of these people really did some really bad shit, you know, like they would like some heist or something, or wouldn't kill somebody. You know, they use security culture too, but for a totally different reason what we try to do it for. You know, and what we're trying to do is to try to minimize the amount of harassment that the state will put on us for the work that we do, so we don't become professional jail support people. You know, don't discuss someone else's support for such action. I was up all night. Trying to find a case. Maybe someone remembers, but I know it's illegal. Actually, now it's different. If you try to say that, you know, my group, we don't engage in these actions, but we actually support people doing the same thing for our struggle. It's illegal. You can now be arrested for that, and 4 people have been arrested for doing just that.
Okay,
You're verbally supporting somebody.
If you support illegal actions and you openly advocate supporting those actions, that is now illegal.
It's now illegal?
It's illegal.
Is it at a federal level?
Yeah, it's free speech.
No, it's federal, but they're still arrested.
You get free speech.
You know,
Is it
yeah.
not free speech?
Well, we all know that there's a lot of laws that violate Constitution. You know what I mean? There's a lot of stuff that violate Constitution consistently. You know, but that was one of the problems I had with Chicago principles. Because part of Chicago principles is, you know, everyone shows solidarity with everyone, and you don't talk bad about anybody. That I have no problem with that. But it's kind of like if you're openly advocating that. Those people Molotov cocktail 6 cars, but guess what? It's for my same struggle. I support that. That is not legal. You cannot do that.
I know this is a little off topic, and I don't want to steer us out. But speaking of Constitution, with the signing of the NVDA, isn't the Constitution pretty well hung?
Oh, it was hung before that with the Patriot Act.
Yep.
So really,
You
that
know.
government ain't our government, and those laws ain't really our laws. We
Right.
go to jail.
Exactly,
So
right.
choose between God's laws and man's laws and pray to holy hell you did the
Pretty
right
much
thing.
all right. You know what? There's a little bit of this is kind of piggyback on that. There's a little bit of a myth of the NDAA. You know how they talked about all the things that might constitute you as being a terrorist. That already existed before the NDAA. The only difference is now you can be arrested for the suspicion of when before the suspicion would put you on a list, and now they can get you. And actually, we did a funny skit on YouTube about the whole NDAA thing where we had like all these meal replacement bars, and we found out that was over 2 weeks worth of food. And you know, anything over 2 weeks worth of food means you could be constituted a terrorist. So we got to go. We broke the door down, took all the bars, and threw them off the roof. You know, because we don't want to be called terrorists. You know? It's really funny how I shake it out. It got like a whole bunch of views too. Don't discuss your plans or someone else's plan for a future action. Okay, you know, that's kind of like a no-brainer, you know, because if you're planning an action and then you talk about you planning the action, now someone knows about the actual, you know, that you just killed it right there, you know. So don't talk about, you know, someone else might be planning to actually do. That's even on the small, that's even on the, you know, the little simple stuff. You know, you don't want to talk about that stuff because number one, all this stuff means you're privy to information. I mean, you know stuff, and also you're compromising the security of what these other people are actually trying to do. You know, so that's how you actually ruin that. No lying, gossiping, or bragging. I know someone in jail now, big time liar. I don't know to say his name, but if you want to look at this, they probably know exactly what I'm talking about. He's from here, moved to Chicago. That's the only hint I'm gonna give. But he was always lying about it. Just, oh man, I got this, I got that. I always stayed away from it. He just was lying, just trying to impress people all the time about how much of a badass he is. But being a badass now has him facing terrorism charges because he talked about allegedly having things to do things. Of course, they raided his house. He didn't have shit. Yeah, I mean, I could have told him that. This guy just talks shit all the time. Gets drunk and gets worse. You know, but he's lying about being a badass and doing all this stuff to impress certain people, and
Now they're treating him like a badass.
yeah, exactly. You know, so basically he's talking shit. You know, and they kind of got him. You know,
Come down and you're starting, dummy.
yeah. No indirect bragging. I'm going to tell you what indirect bragging is. You even know people that, you know, they're always talking about how they can't talk about anything. Oh well, I can't really talk about this, you know, or you know,
I got to kill you.
they always want you to think that they're up to something, but they can't tell you because they got such tight security. We're really tight-lipped around here, you know. You stay away from those people too because you know that you gotta look. They're entrapping people. They love those people because they're saying the shit that they could easily. They're saying shit that they could probably easily use to entrap them, but you know, they're drawing unnecessary attention, you know, and plus they're bragging about how secure. I mean, they probably aren't secure about anything at all. About organized under a horizontal power structure. All right, now I'm explaining. We talk about the Brandon Darby, how you don't want the whole hierarchy. You know, I talk about you want to rotate everything around. That frustrates them. You know, and that just frustrates them. Sometimes you have people from other groups that want to co-opt you. I mean, it's not really security, but you know, like you get SCIU wants to take over your occupied group, where you got a lot of effective. They do that in a lot of places. They're pretty effective. Some places completely took it over. But if you're rotating all your leadership around, rotating people around, so that means they're only going to be like the leader of an action for one day, and you're part of it, you're part of it. This really frustrates them, you know, it makes it really hard, you know, it makes them hard for them to run things and cause as much damage as possible, It also keeps you from looking real embarrassed. It's really embarrassing if people find you had a federal informant running your grassroots activist group and you were following orders from the feds. That's just terrible. It's just really embarrassing, you know. Cut loose people who chronically breach security or insist on vertical or organizational structures. You have people that no matter how much you keep telling them, they just won't shut up. They just keep talking, keep messing up stuff, keep putting stuff on the damn Google listservs, keep putting stuff on the forums. And some people just, with this whole happy togetherness thing, just keep inviting them to all the planning of everything and all the planning stuff still goes online and internet and everything. No element of surprise for the media, because sometimes the media respects you a lot if you tell them, hey, look, we might do something, but don't tell them what it is and tell them where to go, but they know everything about it. They don't keep a tight lip most of the time. They'll blast it out, and then now your whole security is compromised, you know. But the people that keep insisting that, you know, you can't get anything done doing something horizontal. Now, don't be suspicious of all of them. You know, some people just, that's the life they've lived all, they're probably military family, or just the rest of society is just vertical. And some people cannot operate outside of that. You know, if you're like Brandon Darby, you're insisting on things being vertical because you want to run it all. You want to run it all because, of course, it's better than you know, so you got to try to do things horizontally to help build leadership with everybody. And you got that one person that's fighting every damn day about how, you know, that this is hindering everything and it kind of needs to be at top, you know. You eventually try to find a way to kind of either to cut that person or marginalize them or you keep them around.
So if I cut loose, you mean just don't invite them to things?
Not to, if you can, try to don't invite them to the actual action if possible, but you just make sure, because they're always insisting on being at top. Now they could come to things, you know, but they're gonna be consistently trying to go vertical all the time, and you gotta try to rotate things around. They're trying to run roughshod over everything, you know. It drains a lot of energy out of everybody to be combating this one, you know, pain and you know what, you know.
And if they regularly breach security and you decide to cut them loose, how do you tell people, please stop talking to this person online?
We do.
Or do you tell that
But we
person,
do it
you've done
personally.
this enough times, we're done with you?
Yeah, you give them a warning. Say, hey, listen, if you don't stop,
Yeah.
you know, and you know, if they're an informant, they're probably going to stop because they want to stay in anyway, you know. So, and probably if they're not an informant, they might actually, you know, just go away. You know, an informant is very, very important for them to kind of hang around, you know. But you kind of want to give some people a chance, but some people in life are just so